The 90s and 2000s, known as the most iconic eras in American pop culture. From pop stars Mariah Carey, TLC, Aaliyah, Beyonce, who gave us timeless hits, and cult classic films like Pulp Fiction and Clueless that are still referenced to this very day, to the birth of the internet, which ultimately revolutionized every aspect of everyday life. The 90s and 2000s were truly an exciting time. Comparing it to today's pop culture, however, its current state seems stagnant. Not to say that today's music, film, or TV is completely unenjoyable, but many of the changes in the industry are just becoming more clear as we progress. I, Alisha Durosier, sat down with my older siblings, Arkman Johnson and Marsha Durosier, who are millennials, adults of a generation that lived through the ever so iconic eras as youngins and who are now witnesses of the current state of pop culture. We discussed and explored the two eras of the industry and the things that signified one's transformation to the others. We started at the very center of the entertainment industry, the prime facilitators of the American pop culture scene, celebrities. Ranging from A-list to Z-list, celebrities are simply people who receive broad public recognition. And the concept of a celebrity has existed for hundreds of years, as early as the ancient Grecian period. Celebrity culture acted as the pillars that held up American pop culture in the 90s and 2000s and is one of the most significant changes seen in today's pop culture. And a lot of it has to do with the introduction of social media.
It was much more curated, the image of celebrities, because they could actually control every tidbit of what was published typically. I mean, aside from a few tabloids, it was, yeah. There wasn't as much direct connection. Like, all of our celebrities were far away. Like, it was never like you could just talk to them or you could just have a conversation with them or you knew about, their inner lives. It was none of that. It was just like, oh, wow, those are the people up there and we are the people down here.
It's not just limited to Hollywood, but it's now open to different levels of, okay, I'm famous on Instagram, I'm famous on this platform. So I think it's creating different or various platforms of what we call a celebrity. So that's what I noticed.
The 2010s is what introduced the concept of being YouTube, Instagram, and now TikTok famous. Many of the quote-unquote celebrities also have taken the social influencer route to gain their fame.
I think the idea of if you were buying concert tickets or you were spotting a celebrity in the mall or something, it was like a really big deal because you literally did not see them outside of maybe a magazine, a tabloid, a music video, maybe a guest appearance on a TV show. Nowadays, unfortunately, post-internet, I do feel that that is very different. And I don't know that we lose our minds as much. I think that we don't value celebrities in the same way that we did before. I think that celebrities have, there's a normalcy that they have now. And so it does take away the air and the mystery.
Many would also argue that the introduction of social media and these other avenues of fame have ruined the quality of the current entertainment put out to consumers.
If you were trying to become a huge music star, you had to go where the central power and the central money was, which is major record labels. And also in that ecosystem includes a music critic. It includes, the writer, the editor, all these other people. To where if you didn't impress these people, whatever they said about your music could truly change the trajectory of your career. It's obviously become a lot more decentralized because the money is not necessarily decentralized. There are much more avenues that you can take without being on a major label to make money off music, to gain a following, to do all these things that you weren't able to before. The power and the money and all that stuff is no longer decentralized. We don't have to listen to you. We don't have to make what you want. You know what I mean? We could just make what our people want or the other people want. You know what I mean? So it's not a case of we don't have to conform to any of that stuff anymore. There's not this one or two prototypes that we have to fit into anymore. So we could literally do whatever we want and still make a ton of money and still have a ton of success.
As much as I'm glad to see people are getting this notoriety outside of Hollywood, yet at the same time, it's like, where is the standard of quality when it comes to celebrity culture now? What's the metric? What metrics are we using? Because when I see Hollywood, I'm thinking of talent and just grit and whatever, the hard work that goes into that. But nowadays somebody can literally pick up their phone and just give you anything. But then it's like, is it diminishing all the hard work necessary to become successful in Hollywood or in these movies?
Part of what's also disappointing in that is that they think maybe that, pulling from an era, pulling from a certain time frame is original, right? In the sense of like, oh, we're taking something and we're bringing it back and we're making it cool again. And I think a lot of us who have, experienced these songs or these sounds or these movies for the first time, unfortunately, there's not that much nostalgia that really comes into play. I think a lot of times most of the time, I feel like millennials are saying, why did you touch that? Like, why did you touch the song? Why did you touch this movie? And leave it where it was. So,
right.
The entertainment industry has been infected with the disease of nostalgia. We've seen this in the creation of remakes, reboots, and more. We've seen the Lion King live-action remake, the Gossip Girl reboot, the Saved by the Bell reboot, and Fall TV now anticipates an upcoming Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot, and the big screens now anticipate the Little Mermaid live-action remake.
I will say with movies too, I hate remakes. Like, some remakes are good, but I hate remakes. Like, it's cool once in a while, but like, give us a new story. And if you give us a new story and it tanks, that's probably because you did it wrong. Like,
Though we have our qualms with today's entertainment industry, we're not going to talk about the celebrity culture of the 90s and 2000s as if it were all peachy and ignore the extreme toxicity of it. The 2000s was also the peak of paparazzi and tabloid culture, and many celebrities faced the fury of the unforgiving press. Often singling out female celebrities, paparazzi actively sought to invade every aspect of the lives of these celebrities, villainizing them, harassing them, sickly pulling apart their appearances and printing it for the masses. The tabloids are attributed to the downfalls of celebrities like Lindsay Lohan, Nicole Richie, and the paparazzi's favorite, Britney Spears.
It was a lot to take in because you never know what was true or not. Because with you're limited to what information you had based on where you're getting information from. But it seemed like it was hard to fact check because how do you know what's true and what's not true?
The pap still exists, of course, but the tabloids have lost all credibility. But with the nosedive of the tabloid culture and the emergence of social media came the ascension of something seemingly more destructive.
But I think now when you think about tabloids and that kind of deal, it's shade room. It's, all the gossip stuff, like all the gossip IG pages, you know what I mean? But now it's not as much of a barrier from you hearing it. And so really before it's like, you don't want to hear it, just don't read the tabloids. Now it's like, you just can't really escape it because it's everywhere.
And the cherry that graces the top of it all, stan culture. Coined by Eminem with his 2001 single Stan, the term stan is a combination of the words stalker and fan. The term has been quote-unquote reclaimed and reestablished. But has it really?
Oh, I think that we have a culture now that doesn't take feedback well, but then you also have a society that will buy on very minimal standards. They're not needing as much to really convince them to buy. It's very impulsive as far as how they support an artist.
We see this often. When someone attempts to critique a particular person or thing, there's always an aggressive response from that particular group of stans, almost like a digital mob.
I feel like there's this obsession that's been normalized. And because to me, back then, I didn't think that was normal. But to me, that stan culture has become normalized to like, it's okay to be consumed with someone else's life that you know nothing of, that you truly know nothing about.
I could only imagine when you combine the Michael Jackson level of stans with the side effects of consuming social media for long periods of time.
There are many aspects of the industry that are rather not the best, but in many other ways, change was necessary. Exploring these few out of the tons of changes in the entertainment industry has been interesting, and I hope you listeners are forming conversations and forming your own opinions on the subject matter. This is Alisha Durosier, signing off.